Hello and welcome to our channel. Let us talk about the most interesting topic about what will happen if the Earth suddenly stops spinning. What will be its effect on our lives? How it changes the shape of our current world? What will be their result if the Earth stops spinning? After watching complete video, you will find answers of all these questions, so watch the video till the end because there is something very interesting at the end. But before we dive in depth into our topic, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and do press the bell icon to get notified of the latest videos we upload every time. When and how Earth creates. The Earth has rotated since its birth 4.5 billion years ago. The Earth was made from the debris that remained when the Sun was formed from the collapse of a huge cloud of matter. When the tub was emptied, the debris that later became Earth circled around the Sun like water around a drain and rotated as it progressed. The Earth will continue to rotate around the Sun even after it is formed, and will continue to rotate for a long time. The Earth rotates steadily once every 23 hours and 56 minutes. During this time, the Earth moves a little more in orbit around the Sun. This lasts for a year. That is, you need to rotate a little more, 4 minutes, before facing the Sun again. That means that a day on Earth lasts 24 hours. What if the Earth stops spinning? If the Earth suddenly stops spinning, it will be a huge catastrophe for most of the planet's surface. We don't feel it, but we all move with the planet as it rotates. At the equator, this is about 1,000 miles per hour. Suddenly stop the planet, and whatever sits on it will fly east. Imagine people, houses, trees, rocks, etc. thrown horizontally at hundreds of kilometers per hour. As a result, the high-speed wind, which is still spinning at about the same speed as the planet, scrubs the surface cleanly. If the deceleration occurs more slowly, the effect is still dramatic, but it unfolds over a longer period of time. What will happen with Sun? The first thing we may notice is that the Sun stops moving across the sky in a day. The apparent movement of the Sun comes from the rotation of the Earth. If the planet is stationary, this will be a half-year-long day, although you can look forward to a very long sunset. Without the 24-hour days we are accustomed to, the biological circadian rhythm would have been completely out of order. The rhythmic cellular processes that tell our bodies when to sleep and when to wake are partially dependent on regular changes in sunlight to function. From bees to trees, many creatures on Earth depend on circadian rhythms to live their lives. Modifying these cycles can upset normal behavioral patterns. How the climate will be affected. If the planet stops spinning, it will significantly change the way the airflow travels. If the 1,000-mile wind weakens, the wind patterns we see today play an important role in increasing precipitation and temperature around the world. For example, changes in airflow could make current forests habitable, deserts bloom, and frozen tundra habitable. We are already seeing something similar, albeit on a much smaller scale, as climate change changes the world's weather patterns. The results can be disastrous for organisms that depend on a particular environment. The spineless Earth also marks the end of the hurricane. Large-scale rotating storms are created by the Coriolis force that results from the rotation of the planet. Winds drawn into the cyclones of a growing storm rotate counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere, producing spiral lines and centralized that define hurricanes. This process is one of the reasons why storms can be very strong. Therefore, turning off storms can be one of the rare benefits of stopping the rotation of the planet. But a stationary planet probably means the end of our magnetic field. The exact mechanism is still unknown, but it is believed that the magnetic field is generated by the movement of the Earth's liquid metal core. Scientists call this a dynamo, which ultimately becomes a network of invisible lines of magnetic force that swirl around the planet. Move in space. The reason the Earth keeps spinning is that there is little that can stop it. Rotate and release the roundabout in the playground and it will eventually stop. This is because when the air and surface of the playground rotate, it pushes the playground, causing friction and slowing it down. The Earth rotates in space, but it is almost empty. There isn't even air in the universe that pushes the Earth's rotation and slows it down. However, there is one thing that slows down the Earth's rotation. It's the moon. The movement of the Earth's moon is not perfectly balanced by gravity, nor is it the Earth's moon. This imbalance creates sea tides that cause the ocean to swell on both sides of the globe. As the Earth rotates, these bulges move like waves across the surface of the Earth, pushing the Earth's rotation. This slows the rotation of the Earth. This means that the days on Earth increase by 1 second every 50,000 years. The only thing that can stop the rotation of the Earth is if another planet collides with the Earth. If that happens, it is more likely to change the way the Earth rotates rather than stop it completely. 6-month stay. If the rotation of the Earth stops, you will not suddenly jump into space. Gravity always keeps you steady on the ground. However, there are many changes. If the Earth stopped spinning but continued to spin around the Sun, the day would last for half a year, just like at night. It can be warm during the day and even colder at night. This will affect the climate of the Earth. Large day and night temperature differences create strong winds that move warm air to the cooler night side of the globe. Winds will blow from the warm areas around the equator to the cold polar regions. This does not happen on a spinning Earth, as the wind is deflected to the side. The eastern and western winds and the winds to the poles will meet. They have the potential to create huge wind vortices of continent-wide size. The core of the Earth is partially composed of molten iron. The rotational motion of the Earth turns this molten iron into a magnet, giving it a magnetic field. This protects us from harmful radiation coming from the particles of the Sun and cosmic rays from outside the solar system. It hits the Earth's atmosphere because the magnetic field prevents radiation from reaching us, and we see it as an aurora or southern light. In the absence of a magnetic field, this radiation reaches the surface of the Earth and makes people sick. Some birds use a magnetic field to find a way. Therefore, if the Earth does not rotate, the bird will get lost. If the Earth did not rotate, you are always looking at the universe from the same direction, so the night sky will always show the same constellations. This is very different from seeing the stars rising and falling at night and seeing different constellations at different times of the year. Is it possible that Earth stops spinning? The probability that our planet will stop spinning seems to be close to zero, but there is a small possibility paving the way for developing a possible theory of the outcome of such an event. Increase. The fact that the Earth sees a certain day of 24 hours is just in the middle of the bracket of human knowledge. The speed of the Earth thousands of years ago and the speed of the Earth thousands of years later are unclear questions. Scientists have come up with many plausible theories to predict the fate of our planet. The good news is that the Earth won't fall even if it stops spinning. If you push the water to the pole, you can walk around the entire equator on land, but it will be a harsh environment. We already know that the rotation of the Earth is slowing down. But what if our planet's axis of rotation stops completely? Fortunately, a better understanding of our world has allowed geographers to provide us with an answer. You can travel the world at the equator and stay completely dry, ignoring the harsh cold of the night and the scorching heat of the day. The first thing we may notice is the sun has stopped moving across the sky in a day. The rotation of the Earth causes the apparent movement of the Sun, so if the planet is stationary, a day lasts for half a year, although you can look forward to a very long sunset. What we now know what happens when the Earth stops spinning is that the planet is slowing at a rate of 1.7 milliseconds per century. This is believed to be due to the tidal action of the Moon on Earth. If the Earth suddenly stops spinning, the atmosphere around the planet is still intact at current Earth speeds of 1,100 miles per hour at the equator. As the Earth stands still and the atmosphere rotates, all mass on Earth will be uprooted, orbiting the planet and ending up somewhere on the planet. For example, on a bright and sunny day, a young man drives the highway in his free time. A short distance away, he passes by a herd of restaurants. If the Earth suddenly stops spinning, this young man sees him, his car, the road, the vegetation around him, the restaurant, and everyone in it blow up. Prize. The fastest wind ever recorded is currently 400 kilometers an hour, but the wind is almost 4 times stronger. The scenario is just as deadly. In addition, the Earth, which has been inflated at the poles due to the centrifugal forces experienced by the planet, causes all the water in the ocean to flow toward the poles, leaving a huge single continent at the equator. Overflowing water will flood some parts of North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, South America, and most of the Arctic Circle. This exposes the equator and tropics to drought, and existing life, if anything remains, will be deprived of food and water due to lack of plants. Natural transitions between seasons are also suppressed throughout the year. The final and most deadly result is the loss of Earth's magnetic field. The Earth's magnetic field plays an important role in blocking out the deadly cosmic rays of the sun. Without it, our atmosphere would pave the way for these high-frequency rays to love Earth and destroy all life left on Earth. Had it not been for the 24-hour days we were accustomed to, the biological circadian rhythm would have been completely out of order. Regular fluctuations in sunlight are necessary for a rhythmic cellular mechanism that tells our body when to sleep and when to wake up and function. Many animals on Earth, from bees to trees, rely on circadian rhythms to function. Modifying these cycles can disrupt standard behavioral patterns. On the other hand, if the Earth's rotation gradually stops, in what is called sun synchronous, the Earth's rotation gradually slows down to about one rotation in 365 days over billions of years. If so, it would be a scenario very different. The chances of this happening are much higher than before. In this case, one part of the planet has permanent sunlight and another part has permanent darkness. This is not the end of the planet's rotation, but it is quite close. In an impossible scenario, what happens when the Earth completely stops spinning for 6 months in the sun and 6 months at night? As the wind changes, the circulation takes place between the poles, not the current poles of the east and west. In addition, if the Earth stops spinning completely, the Earth's temperature will change. The equatorial region will be much hotter, and the region near the poles will be much more because the planets will be exposed to the sun's rays at an angle. As we know, there are no planets out there that don't rotate at all. Planets and other celestial bodies are formed by natural processes that result in rotation. Therefore, the whole world rotates from the beginning. However, other planets appear stationary in what astronomers call rotation and revolution. These worlds always show the same side to our stars, and as a result, the day and night sides do not change. The speed of rotation of a planet can gradually slow down until it is in perfect agreement with the orbital period due to gravitational interactions with the stars. Does that mean all at once? If the Earth suddenly stops spinning, you will die in a few seconds. You'll be thrown sideways at speeds over 1,000 miles per hour, rolling, falling, and sliding down the floor until you hit something bigger than you, and you'll die. Then you will be too busy. Note that the day side, one side of the globe, gets very hot, and the night side, the other side, gets much colder. But before that, vast lands had been wiped out by the walls of the sea. You do not accelerate. The Earth stops spinning, and the preservation of motion keeps everything loosely glued to the surface spinning at its previous rotational speed.